forces' D-Day invasion. Later in the day, he was wounded by friendly fire. That caused the amputation of the middle finger on his right hand. You might not have noticed it because during his time on Star Trek, directors did the best they could to avoid showing the injury on screen. Friendly fire is bullshit to me.
How would you shoot your own men?
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're not paying attention enough to miss your own people, you're aiming at them.
So, apple pie isn't actually American. Apples originally came from Asia. The first pies were baked in medieval Europe. Even though the concept of putting apples in pie traces back to a recipe from England in 1381. Nevertheless, the phrase as American as apple pie turned up by 1924 and became a common saying during the years of the Second World War.
That's weird. Apparently, pigs are constitutionally protected by Florida. First written in 1838, the Constitution of the state of Florida guarantees the right to privacy. The right to privacy. I'm sorry. The freedom of speech, because they can talk apparently. And the right of pregnant pigs to be free from cages. Well, that's interesting. Unlike many crazy or outdated laws, this amendment is recent, passed in 2002, and comes from a well-meaning place. Prevention of cruelty to animals. During pregnancy, a pig must not be caged or even tethered such that it can turn around freely. That's weird. The others I get, but freedom of speech? Motherfuckers can't talk. You shut up. Don't tell him to shut up.
He has the freedom to oink. Sorry. Sharks to live for 5 centuries. Greenland sharks are known to be some of the oldest living animals in our world. Researchers did carbon dating on a Greenland shark that was caught in 2014 and found it to be around 392 years old. Further testing revealed that our fishy friends could be up to 500 years old.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's an old-ass shark. Baby shark. Sorry.
I effing hate that song. Just so you know. Shut up. I actually read that there is a shark that was found, I don't know where, that is like thousands of years old.
Probably.
Recently. So it might not be on this list. But how messed is that? Can you imagine, like, that same shark killed my grandpappy and my daddy and my uncle. And like, this shark has been around for so long. Can you imagine that? Crazy.
We just lost the rednecks.
Come on. I wasn't trying to be that. I just said
I know, I'm just kidding with you, babe.
Come back.
We love all you equals.
There's an entire town under a rock.
Yes.
In Sentinel de la Bodegas in Spain. That's a lot of words I don't really know how to pronounce, so bear with me. Many of this tiny town's 3,000 residents live and work and play in a gorge beneath a huge rocky outcropping, where homes are built right into the rock. It provides so much shelter that historians think the area has been occupied by human settlements since the Stone Age. Huh. Well, where do you think Mayans lived? In the rocky outcroppings of mountains down there. So, it's not uncommon. Provide shelter.
Just hope there's not an earthquake or something.
Well, it's usually the mountain itself, so the chances of it crumbling are hard to do.
So, it is illegal to sell a bounceless pickle to somebody in Connecticut. The law actually arose as a legend ordinance that was created in 1945 to thwart pickle packers Moses Dexter and Sidney Sparrow. Those two men were selling inedible pickles, so laboratories conducted experiments and found that if it doesn't bounce, don't eat an ounce.
Who's gonna test that theory?
Let's bounce some pickles.
It's time to test the pickles. Throw one at the
Does
floor.
it bounce? Oh, we don't eat an ounce.
I'd rather try biting it instead of throwing it at the floor. Whatever. The fire hydrant patent was lost in a fire.
Irony.
The fire hydrant patent is credited to Frederick Graff Sr., who was the chief engineer for Philadelphia Water Works during the early 1800s. Unfortunately for Graff Sr., the patent was destroyed when the patent office in Washington, D.C. burned down in 1836. After 100 years, retired firefighter George
Silaskis.
I'm not even going to try. Reinvented the hydrant after they had been failing to work in too many critical emergencies. Shut up. Sigalakis? I don't know. Anyway, it's some dude.
Irony.
Yeah, really.
Let's see. I've heard of this person before. One man survived 2 atomic bombs.
Bongs! What's on her mind today, guys?
I don't even smoke. Oh my god.
Maybe you need to smoke?
Now this is gonna suck. Tsusamu Yamagachi
Yeah, that one I know.
survived both nuclear attacks to Japan when the U.S. dropped atomic bombs during World War II.
I'm sorry, did you just say nuclear?
What?
It sounds like you said nuclear. Nuclear.
I don't know what I said. Yamagachi set to Hiroshima on business on August 6, 1945, saw the U.S. drop the first atomic bomb. Miraculously, he survived with burns across his face and arms, but made it home to Nagasaki. 3 days later, the second atomic bomb hit, flattening Yamagachi's home because his family was out finding ointments to treat his already existent burns. They were saved in a tunnel and miraculously survived as well.
That's crazy. That's like people who can be struck by lightning more than once. Like, how the fuck are they still alive?
There's a stewardess that was in the Olympia, or not the Olympia, the Titanic, and then, was it the Olympia that sunk too?
Yeah, I think so.
But
Yeah, no, I heard about her.
Lusitania. I don't know, one of the sister ships. She was in both of them, and she lived.
This is funny, but it's fucking true. Cows kill.
Bleep.
Shut up. Cows kill more Americans each year than sharks do. While sharks account for about 53 bites per year, start singing "I Will Hurt You." Only one of those ends up being fatal. Cows, on the other hand, or hoof, kill around 20 people per year. You think I don't see you in the corner of my vision doing that baby shark thing you do?
She did the Gibbs, you guys.
Totally, Hipster was awesome.
Okay. In Germany, people help toads cross the road. There they like to protect their frogs, toads, and other amphibians. In order to save them from harm when crossing the street, conservation organizations...
Conservation.
I've worked class, I saw you guys. Installed more than 800 fences along popular roadways. Along these fences are buckets, so when they try to cross, they eventually hop into one. At the end of the day, wildlife conservationists collect buckets and release frogs across the road into a nearby forest with ponds and lakes.
Wow.
So you knew I was part German, that's why I love the froggies.
She's crazy, guys. Cheetahs don't roar. Cheetahs can't roar, but they can purr. They can meow, hiss, bark, and growl instead. This type of behavior is much like the domestic cats we keep in our homes.
The majority of Americans choose dogs. I choose cats.
Why is that even a thing?
It was a study, I guess.
This is weird. Star Wars was expected to be a flop.
I can check out the days. Your liver can regrow itself in 3 days.
That must be why you can give a piece of your liver and be fine within a week. 70-year-old woman completed 7 marathons in 7 days across all 7 continents. Really? Chow Smith, in 2017, she decided that for her 70th birthday, she would complete 7 marathons in 1 week across all the continents. Smith made the race in Egypt just minutes before the start because her plane to Cairo was delayed. But she did make it. That's crazy. 7.
Right? What's with all sevens?
70. In 2017.
She likes sevens. That's her lucky number.
I like 7s.
So, dogs like squeaky toys for a dark reason. Because dogs are descendants of wolves whose instincts include hunting smaller animals, the sound of a squeaky toy makes it very similar to the sound a small animal makes when being hunted. Poor little
Gross.
doggy. Poor little doggy. Poor little squirrels and stuff.
My goodness. The man who founded Atari started Chuck E. Cheese in 1972. Nolan Bushnell started the gaming company Atari, which gave us the classic arcade game Pong. Bushnell sold the company just 4 years later, and the following year he opened Chuck E. Cheese. In fact, there's one game in Chuck E. Cheese that actually is called Ping, a knockoff of his original arcade game, which he couldn't use since he no longer owned it. That was funny.
Here's a subject I love.
Jeez.
There may be 2,000 active serial killers in the U.S.
Or more. Beethoven could still hear after going deaf. Upon going deaf, Beethoven discovered that if he bit onto a metal pole that connected to the piano he was playing, he could hear almost perfectly well. Oh. This process is called bone conduction. And while technology has evolved, science is the same. Vibrations are transferred from the conductive metal into our bones. When this happens, our ears pick up the signal with no sound distortion. Oh. I didn't know that. A lot of people wondered how he was so, still doing sonnets and stuff.
Did you ever feel like one certain crow was picking on you? So I guess crows hold grudges. Once they identified the suspect in question, they would threaten them by diving down and swarming the person that they had felt threatened by years before. So you can piss off one little crow,
Little shits.
and it go after you for years until it dies.
Can you imagine it was an accident and it keeps dive bombing you and you're like, I'm sorry, but it won't stop. Huh. Canada once heavily targeted LGBTQ individuals. Our Canadian neighbors may not have been as friendly as we thought. During the Cold War era, Canada spent thousands on its historic fruit machine.
Yeah.
This device was supposedly able to identify gay men and lesbian women by monitoring subjects as they were shown pornographic images with homosexual content. This unfortunately led to the wrongful persecution of many of Canada's fine citizens. In 2017, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau apologized for the mistreatment of these men and women.
A fruit machine. That is so,
Awful.
prejudice.
I didn't think about it at the time, but at Job Corps, people used to call me fruit salad.
A restaurant in New York employs grandmas as chefs. I want to go there. I want to grab a food.
Get a whole
dinner.
meal.
Exactly.
My grandma's passed away.
My grandma doesn't cook anymore.
I would love to be able to eat a home-cooked meal
Right.
Although, hopefully your mom's going to be a grandma soon, so we can say that your mom is making its own
Hopefully.
meals. Where were we? America's first bank robber deposited the money back into the same bank at the Bank of Philadelphia on August 1st, 1798.
Well, I guess in 1798 there probably wouldn't be too many banks.
A sum of $162,821 was stolen from the vault. There was no sign of forced entry, so it was thought to be an inside job. Patrick Lyon was imprisoned as the prime suspect, as he had been the carpenter that worked on the vault doors. But then they realized a man named Isaac Davis had been depositing large sums of money into the Bank of Philadelphia. It turned out he was one of the robbers involved. In 1799, Lyon was freed, and Davis only ended up repaying the money without serving a day in jail.
They're like, we're over it. We're not really worried about it anymore.
It's been so many years. We don't give a shit.
Alright, Germany uncovers 2,000 tons of unexploded bombs every year during World War II. The Allied forces dropped over a total of 2.7 million tons of bombs on Germany. Due to certain defects in the delay timers, a large number of bombs never exploded. Around 10%, or 200,000 tons, as they've been discovered in years since. It's routine for German citizens to be evacuated from buildings or sectioned off on streets while bomb experts handle the devices.
I'm tired, y'all. Sharks existed before trees. Okay. Are youngins compared to the geezer sharks that rule the sea?
It was already like this road.
Sharks have existed for over 400 million years, while trees became their own official species only 350 million years ago. Other notable animals that outlived our leafy ancestors are the horseshoe crab as well as the jellyfish.
Baby crab.
Stop with the Baby Shark song, please. You're driving me nuts.
Trees weren't always biodegradable. Today, bacteria and fungi eat away at fallen trees, but that wasn't always the case. Bacteria had to evolve to eat wood. So hundreds of millions of years ago, trees would fall at death, leaving large piles of dead wood. Forest fires of unimaginable proportions would burn the massive mounds of dead wood, and that was where most of the coal today on Earth came from, according to National Geographic.
Detroit undercover cops and a drug ring fought another group of undercover cops. November 2017, when two groups of undercover cops in Detroit accidentally mistook each other for the drug dealers and buyers they were respectively trying to bust. What ensued during the raid was a standoff resulting in fists being thrown while guns were pointed at each other. Internal Affairs had to be contacted to put the officers under investigation in an attempt to figure out the unfortunate miscommunication.
2017.
That's not okay, guys.
A silverback gorilla can lift almost a ton.
Almost a literal ton. Every time you shuffle a deck of cards, you get a combination that's never existed. Grab a deck of cards and shuffle. Most likely you will have created a combination of cards that has never been existed yet until that moment. Any math expert out there? Any math experts out there know that this is because probability comes out to 52 factorial, or 52. 52 times 51 times 50, blah blah, backwards. The probability that two card shuffles are exactly the same is so small, it likely will never happen. Interesting.
What are you doing?
I'm checking my phone.
America accidentally dropped an atomic bomb on South Carolina in 1958. In March 1958, a B-47 plane was headed to the United Kingdom and was armed with an atomic bomb. This bomb was even bigger than the Fat Boy, the atomic bomb dropped on Nagasaki. During the flight, the pilots noticed a fault light, so one of them decided to check it out. In doing so, he accidentally released the emergency pin, watching in horror as the bomb dropped to the ground. The good news was a critical part of the bomb needed to set it off was still on the plane, so it never exploded.
Ooh. Guess who it is? No. You having issues, dear?
Stay. 25 years later. Keep going.
Cats once delivered mail in Belgium. In the 1870s, the city of Liege, Belgium, attempted to employ 37 felines as mail carriers. According to the BBC, messages were tucked into waterproof bags that the kitties would carry around their necks. However, while one cat apparently made it to its destination in under 5 hours, the other felines took up to a day to complete their journeys. Due to the fact that the cats weren't particularly reliable and definitely weren't speedy, service didn't last very long. Okay.
So it is a myth that people are either left-brained or right-brained.
Yeah. You just use all of your brain. Both sides.
All the time.
Part of your brain is for creativity and the other part is for intelligence. Women are attracted to the scent of Good and Plenty licorice candy, and cucumber perfumes and colognes offer alluring aromas, but it turns out that there is another smell combination that is likely to turn a lady on. This should be interesting. One 2005 study by the Smell and Taste Treatments Research Foundation found that the most attractive scent for women was Good and Plenty licorice candy combined with cucumbers. The smell of cherries, barbecue were turn-offs, but banana nut bread also had positive effects. Alrighty, that's weird.
There's a device that creates energy from snowfall.
Really? Is it like kinetic energy?
I guess.
Maybe it's a weight thing. The Iowa State Fair holds quirky competitions like a beard growing contest and a husband calling contest. Husband calling contest? Really?
Hey, Tomi!
If you've ever been to the Iowa State Fair, you've experienced the sort of carnival-based fun that it's been providing since 1886. And if you've never been to the annual event, then you should know that you're missing out on quite a few quirky competitions, including cow chip and rubber chicken throwing contests,
Cow chips.
a husband calling contest, and a beard growing contest. Cow chips? Do you know what cow chips are, people?
It's poo.
That's poo. That is cow poo that people are picking up and tossing it. And that's just weird. I can't believe... Rubber chickens? Really?
It's a little better than cow chips.
But still, it's a rubber chicken.
Alrighty. There's an entire family in Italy that feels almost no pain. Members of the Marcelli family handle injuries remarkably well, and that's because they only experience pain for a moment before it fades away. Letizia Marcelli told Smithsonian Magazine, "I just thought of it as part of who I was. I was strong. I was resilient. I bounced back. However, when a researcher at the University of Siena, where Letizia works, noticed her unusual tolerance for pain, which is something her mother, sister, and son all share, the two decided to collaborate to see what was going on. They discovered that Letizia experiences the good pain, the pain that alerts us to danger, then it disappears. The bad kind of pain, the chronic pain, the ongoing pain that we can take painkillers for, she simply doesn't feel that." Lucky.
Wow. That's weird.
No more period cramps. That'd be nice.
I knew somebody that didn't have emotions.
I know people like that.
It was a little weird. He was like, I just don't feel emotions.
You do not feel the emotions.
He was born that way. That's a little weird. The word hipster goes all the way back to the 1930s. While hipster is used these days to describe someone who tries, perhaps too hard, to be stylish and trendy, the term is actually much older, in the 1930s, to refer to someone in the jazz scene. See, that's the way I know hipsters. Good hipsters.
It's kind of sad and funny at the same time. Guinea pigs were once sacrificed wearing earrings and necklaces and wrapped like sushi, like Sush Lidio Valdez, an archaeologist from the Institute of Indian Studies, made a surprising discovery in Peru when he came across 100 dead guinea pigs that had been sacrificed by the Incan people during the 16th century. The rodents, which had clearly been a part of some sort of ritual, were adorned with earrings and necklaces made from colorful string. Some were even wrapped in cotton rugs like a sushi roll. Wrote Gizmodo of the finding, which were published in the International Journal of Astroarchaeology
Osteoarchaeology.
in 2019.
I'm getting tired.
It's almost over.
Hitler had a flatulence problem. In 2012, Adolf Hitler's medical documents were being auctioned to the public by Alexander Historical Auctions. According to the files, the Telegraph reported flatulence had become such a pervasive issue for Hitler that he had to regularly ingest 28 different drugs to keep it under control. Some of the anti-gas pills he used contained a base of strychnine, a poison that caused further stomach and liver issues. So, basically...
You need to take more of that.
Yeah, really. So basically, Hitler was a fart bucket. Pass that around. That's funny.
Maine is the only state that borders just one other state. If you're in Maine, you'll find that the Atlantic Ocean to the south and Canada to the north. But if you want to stay in the U.S., you'll have to head west to New Hampshire because Maine is the only state in the country that borders just one other state.
The Twitter bird's official name is Larry. If you truly want to be among the savviest social media users out there, you should know the Twitter bird has an official name. Larry the bird.
The bird.
Oh my god.
Okay, allergy season is getting longer and more intense each year. If you're one of the millions of Americans who suffer from allergies, we've had bad news for you. We've got bad news for you. Allergy season is getting longer and more intense each year. I just read that. According to a 2019 study published in the Lancet Planetary Health, likely another unfortunate result of climate change, scientists have found that pollen counts across the northern hemisphere have increased over the last 20 years, and the pollen season is increasing 0.9 days a year worldwide.
Some Maryland residents are taxed for the rain. For some Maryland residents, rain and taxes are both inescapable and tied together thanks to the rain tax, which was passed by the state legislature and signed into law in 2012. 9 counties, as well as the city of Baltimore, pay the annual fee that the Center for Wasteland Control, I can't see it. Watershed Protection describes as a user fee charged to property owners for the service of managing the polluted runoff coming from their property.
How can you tax rain?
Actually, there are some states that don't allow you to collect rainwater.
Oregon's one of those.
Really? Sucks. So is Washington.
Stupid.
There are also some that don't allow you to use windmills or solar panels for personal use.
So, scientists partially revived disembodied pig brains in April 2019. A team at Yale was able to restore partial functionality in the brains of decapitated pigs for 10 hours or even after the animal's death. Or more after the animal's death.
Great, zombie pigs.
Just the... Oh, I've seen some really bad, animal science experiments.
Astronauts in space are exposed to the same amount of radiation as 150 to 6,000 chest x-rays. When astronauts leave Earth, they face a range of factors that affect them physically. That includes the intense amount of radiation that they're exposed. I can't read from that far away. According to NASA, it's the equivalent of anywhere between 150 to a staggering 6,000 chest x-rays. That's a lot of chest x-rays, y'all. In my lifetime, I think I've had maybe 20?
I've had one or two.
I had one just last week. Go.
This one's gross. Beaver bum goo is occasionally used to enhance vanilla flavorings.
Ew, that's like eating bat guano to me. Prepare for a long one, y'all. The U.S. almost went to war with Canada over a pig in 1859. Over a pig. Just a few years after the Oregon Treaty was signed to end a border dispute between America and Britain, which still ruled over the area that came to be known as Canada, things got a little heated on San Juan Island, where citizens from both countries were located. Historic UK explains that a pig belonging to the British accidentally wandered onto the land of Lyman Cutler, an American farmer. When Cutler noticed the pig eating some of his potatoes, he was incensed, and in a fit of rage shot and killed the pig. Despite efforts to resolve the situation between the two men, things spread into the rest of the community and got to the point where the governor of British Columbia sent 3 warships to the area. Warships over a pig. The two sides continued to increase their military until British Navy Admiral Robert L. Baines arrived and ended things by stating that he would not involve 2 great nations in a war over a squabble about a pig. Can the squabble be about something else? Like LGBTQ?
Something worthwhile.
Yeah.
Tornadoes used to be called twirl blasts and whirlwinds in the 18th century.
That's actually pretty funny. The Sundance Kid took his nickname from the town of Sundance, Wyoming. You may not recognize the name, Harry Alonzo Longabaugh, and that's because he was famously the American outlaw who was born in 1868 and was killed in 1908, took his now historical moniker from the only